Have you ever felt like the quieter you become, the more the world overlooks you? In a time where noise is mistaken for influence and visibility for value, it's easy to forget that real strength doesn't need an audience. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't chase attention. They built themselves in silence, with discipline as their compass and virtue as their aim. While others seek validation in every glance, the Stoic seeks alignment in every action. What if your greatest power isn't in being seen, but in being unshakably solid when no one's looking? In this video, we'll explore how to keep rising without performance, how to let your stillness speak, and how to earn respect without ever asking for it. If you've ever felt called to something deeper than applause, stay with me. This might just be the clarity you didn't know you were seeking. Chapter 1. Win for yourself, not the applause. Let's talk about the real reason most people never feel fulfilled, even when they win. They chase applause, they seek validation, they want eyes on them, praise beneath their feet, and a spotlight overhead. But Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." And in that single paradox lies the trap that enslaves millions, the belief that success needs to be seen, that victory only counts if it's witnessed. But the Stoics knew better. They taught us that the only true success is inner success, when your actions align with your values, even if no one ever sees them, especially if no one ever sees them. Because if you can only stay disciplined when the world is watching, that's not discipline, that's performance. And performance is fragile. It fades the moment the curtain drops. Real character is built in silence, in obscurity. In the early mornings, no one celebrates. In the late nights, no one claps for. It's built when you're tired, but keep going, when you feel unseen, but still give your best. Not because someone else is counting, but because you are. That's purpose, that's virtue, that's what endures. If your motivation dies when the applause ends, it was never purpose, it was ego. Purpose is quieter, but it's relentless. It fuels you when enthusiasm fades. It steadies you when the world offers no reward. It keeps your back straight when no one's affirming you. It isn't loud, but it's unshakable. Performance needs a stage. Purpose just needs a soul. The person who wins for applause may impress a room, but the person who wins for themselves transforms a life. Because that kind of quiet integrity, that's the kind of strength that builds nations, legacies, and peace of mind. So the next time you do something good, don't post it, don't explain it, don't look for eyes. Just ask yourself, will I still be proud of this when I'm alone? That's the standard. That's the path. Start keeping a private record of your actions and your motives. Build a journal, not to share, but to remember who you are and who you're becoming. Let your victories be silent, sacred, and yours. Because at the end of the day, applause fades. But virtue, that stays, that grows, that frees you. Chapter 2. The Strategy of Silence. Let's talk about one of the most overlooked forms of strength in the modern world, silence. We live in an age of noise, an age where everyone rushes to react, to post, to defend, to explain. People speak not because they've reflected, but because they feel pressured to be heard. But Marcus Aurelius, like all great Stoics, understood something deeper. Silence isn't the absence of thought, it's the presence of mastery. As Cleanthes once said, "Let your words be few and your meaning clear." That wasn't about being timid, it was about power. because real power doesn't need to announce itself. True silence listens with intention, observes without urgency, and responds only when the moment is ripe. When you speak less, you protect your energy. You shield your mind from arguments that solve nothing, from emotional bait thrown by those who haven't learned control. You stop wasting words on those who have already made up their mind about you, and in doing so, you reclaim your peace. Silence, when chosen deliberately, becomes a fortress. It gives you space to study the room, to read between the lines, to understand what others miss because they're too busy talking. It sharpens your responses, so when you do speak, your words cut through the noise with weight and clarity. You stop being predictable. You become grounded, unreadable, respected, not for how loudly you speak, but for how rarely you need to. In a world that reveals too much too quickly, restraint becomes magnetic. Mystery becomes presence, and presence, when rooted in inner stillness, becomes influence. You don't need to explain your every move. You don't need to answer every insult. What you withhold speaks louder than what others scream. Start small. Pause before you respond. Breathe before you react. Watch before you speak. Let stillness become your standard, not your struggle. Because at the end of the day, the less noise you make, the more the world leans in to hear what you're really about. Chapter 3. Let the results talk. Let's talk about a kind of strength that doesn't need a microphone, because its presence speaks for itself. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. And that's the essence of this chapter. Let your results speak. Let your life do the convincing. We live in a world addicted to visibility, everyone chasing attention, applause, and external validation. But Stoicism teaches a different kind of power, the quiet kind, the kind you build when no one's watching, the kind that doesn't need announcements because it's already undeniable. When you build with consistency and character, you don't have to demand respect. You become someone others respect automatically, because they can't help it. Not because you told them who you are, but because your actions made it obvious. Think of a craftsman. He doesn't broadcast every stroke of the chisel, every hour spent sanding in solitude. He just keeps showing up, building piece by piece with precision. And eventually, his work commands reverence, not through noise, but through quality. That's what your life should be. A quiet masterpiece, built slowly, patiently, honestly. You don't need to prove your value with noise when your character is your proof. Your results are your voice, and they carry farther than any explanation ever could. When you move with discipline, when you choose excellence without an audience, when you stay grounded while others posture, you become the kind of person who's rare, and rare things are noticed, not immediately, but inevitably. That's how legacy is built, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, through repetition, through integrity, through the thousands of decisions you make when no one is clapping. That's what creates something timeless, something rooted in truth. And truth, it doesn't fade. It doesn't beg to be believed. It just endures. So set goals that are based on action, not attention. Reflect not on how you appear, but on what your life actually reveals. At the end of the day, what truly earns respect isn't what you say. It's what you consistently do when no one else is watching. Chapter 4. Let your stillness speak. Let's talk about the kind of respect that can't be forced, bought, or begged for. It's the kind you don't get by shouting, posting, or pointing to your achievements. It's the kind that quietly follows those who live with unwavering integrity. Respect in the truest Stoic sense, is not something you demand. It's something you become worthy of, not through performance, but through presence, through the quiet force of discipline, through how you move when no one's watching, how you stay upright when no applause is coming, and how you treat people when you have nothing to gain. That's where respect is forged, in the silence, in the hours of unseen work, in the moments when no one is checking, but you still hold yourself to a higher standard. It's not your words that carry the weight. It's your habits. It's the fact that you follow through when it's hard, that you make the right call when the easy one is tempting, that your self-respect becomes a standard, not a strategy. Lucius Seneca once said, "The greatest wealth is a poverty of desires." True respect begins with the refusal to chase recognition and instead choosing to live in alignment with your values, even when it costs you, especially when it costs you. And over time, that quiet consistency becomes unmistakable. People notice how you carry yourself. They see the steadiness in your choices, the restraint in your reactions, and the depth in your silence. You don't have to tell them who you are. Your life does that for you. Influence, the kind that matters, is never loud. It's built on trust, earned through patience, and sustained by character. So, pick one area of your life where you've been tempted to slack when no one's looking. Maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe it's how you speak when no one can hear you. Improve it quietly. Let that invisible discipline become your armor, because at the end of the day, real respect is earned not in the light, but in the darkness, where only your conscience can see you. Chapter 5. Respect the unseen, power the unspoken. Let's talk about something few understand in a world addicted to noise: restraint. In an age where everyone has an opinion, where speaking first and speaking most is mistaken for authority, the Stoics quietly held a different truth. The fewer your words, the more power they hold. When you're not known for bragging, complaining, or narrating every detail of your life, your words become rare, and rarity creates value. Just like flooding the market with currency devalues money, flooding a conversation with unnecessary speech weakens your presence. But when you speak with clarity, intention, and timing, your words cut through the noise like a blade. Seneca believed that wise speech was rooted not in how much you said, but in how well you observed before saying anything at all. Your silence becomes your signal. Your restraint becomes your edge. A single sentence from someone who rarely speaks can strike deeper than 1,000 words from someone who never stops talking. Because that sentence wasn't cheap, it was earned. You listened, you waited, you understood, and when you finally spoke, it meant something. That is influence. Not volume, but precision. True discipline isn't just staying silent. It's choosing the exact moment when silence should break. It's not about fear. It's about force. Force rooted in self-awareness. Silence refines your thoughts. It gives them weight. It lets your mind settle before your voice speaks. And when your voice does arrive, it doesn't echo. It lands. So this week, speak less, mean more. Ask yourself before every word, is this useful? Is this necessary? Is this kind? Let your voice be a blade, not a scatter of sound. Because at the end of the day, it's not how much you say that earns respect. It's how deeply what you say is felt. Chapter 6. The discipline of being underestimated. Let's talk about one of the most underrated advantages in life: being underestimated. While the world rushes to be seen, applauded, and admired, the Stoic walks a different path, the path of quiet preparation. When others overlook you, they unknowingly hand you a gift: freedom. freedom from scrutiny, freedom from inflated expectations, freedom to build in the shadows, uninterrupted. Marcus Aurelius never craved attention. He craved excellence. And he knew that power built in silence lasts longer than power announced before it's ready. When no one sees you coming, no one can stand in your way. That's not just strategy, it's sovereignty. To be underestimated is to walk with a cloak of invisibility that protects your momentum. You get to sharpen your skills while others perform. You get to grow while others pose. You get to prepare without pressure while others chase validation. Most people crumble under the weight of needing to be perceived as great. But the Stoic understands that perception is fleeting, while preparation is permanent. So let them misjudge you. Let them label you as average, quiet, or irrelevant. And then let your results speak a language they can't ignore. Let your stillness carry authority. Let your presence do what your words never need to. Because being underestimated isn't an insult, it's an opening. It's the space to grow roots while others reach prematurely for branches. The deeper your roots, the higher your rise. And when that rise comes, it's not flashy, it's formidable. You don't need to announce what you're becoming, just become it. Practice restraint. Train in silence. Redirect every moment of doubt into discipline. Refuse to give energy to the applause or the critics. Channel it all into refinement. Let your focus be so precise, your growth so consistent, that when the time comes, your presence alone alters the room. At the end of the day, those who seek the spotlight fade with it, but those who build in the dark, they rise beyond reach. Chapter 7. Protect your energy like a fortress. Let's talk about the most overlooked form of self-respect, protecting your energy. The Stoics understood that attention, time, and emotional focus are not limitless. They are precious, like gold stored in the vault of your soul. Every moment you spend, every thought you feed, every interaction you engage in, it all comes at a cost. And yet, most people today spend these resources like they're infinite, leaking strength into distractions, noise, and obligations that have nothing to do with their deeper purpose. Epictetus once said, "Keep your attention focused entirely on what is truly your own concern." And that one line can reframe your entire life. You are not meant to carry every argument, every notification, every opinion. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every battle deserves your presence. If you don't become the gatekeeper of your mental and emotional economy, the world will spend it for you. The news, the gossip, the endless scrolling, the urge to prove your worth, they will chip away at your clarity until you're exhausted but unfulfilled, present but powerless. A Stoic doesn't let the world decide how they feel or what they focus on. They listen without absorbing. They observe without reacting. They ask one sacred question before engaging: is this mine to carry? If the answer is no, they release it, not in bitterness, but in clarity. This is not passivity, this is power. Because when your energy is grounded, your presence becomes undeniable. You don't need to speak loudly. You simply show up with depth. You don't chase approval. You move with alignment. Audit your energy. Look at your habits, your inputs, your conversations. Ask yourself, does this make me stronger or weaker? Replace chaos with clarity. Replace reactivity with rhythm. Let your days be sculpted by purpose, not pressure. At the end of the day, a focused life isn't built by doing more. It's built by protecting what matters most and letting the rest fall away like noise in the wind. Chapter 8. Win without needing to be seen. Let's talk about a different kind of victory, the kind the world doesn't notice but your soul never forgets. In today's culture, we've been conditioned to equate visibility with value. If it's not posted, praised, or performed for an audience, we're told it doesn't count. But the Stoics knew better. They understood that true success isn't something you prove, it's something you embody. Seneca once wrote, "What is the good of being praised by others if you despise yourself?" That one line breaks the illusion. Because praise is fleeting, but self-respect, that endures in the quiet hours when the world isn't watching, but your conscience still is. Winning, in its purest form, happens in the dark. When your only motivation is your own standard, your own virtue, your own quiet fire. When you stop needing to be seen, you start seeing yourself clearly. You stop performing and you start producing. You stop chasing approval and you start crafting excellence. And that's where freedom lives, not in applause, but in alignment. The Stoic path isn't about being impressive. It's about being intentional. It's about building in solitude, not for secrecy, but for strength. Because what you refine in private becomes unshakable in public. What you practice when no one claps becomes your true foundation. The less you crave recognition, the more you build something real. Not noise, not hype, but mastery. You become the kind of person who sharpens their character in stillness, who finds joy in effort, pride in progress, and peace in doing the work, regardless of who's watching. So, make it your practice. Build something meaningful where no one can see it. Strengthen a skill, deepen a discipline, improve a weakness, not for attention, but for truth. Track your growth, not your likes. Let your legacy begin in silence. Because at the end of the day, when your success is rooted in who you are, not who others think you are, it becomes untouchable, and that's the kind of victory that lasts. Chapter 9. Let silence elevate you. Let's talk about a kind of power the world often overlooks, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't rush, and doesn't need to be validated. It's the power of silence, not the silence of fear or uncertainty, but the silence born of mastery. The Stoics understood this deeply. To them, silence wasn't emptiness, it was control, it was presence, it was wisdom wrapped in restraint. Marcus Aurelius didn't lead through noise, he led through depth, through calm, through the weight of a mind that didn't need to dominate a room to be heard. Because when you stop speaking just to be seen, you start seeing what others miss. The energy of a room, the subtleties in tone, the truths between the lines. Silence sharpens your awareness. It trains your mind to observe instead of react. And with each moment of stillness, you develop a kind of influence that isn't demanded. It's invited. You stop feeling the need to explain yourself to everyone. You stop filling gaps with noise just to feel significant. You learn to sit with discomfort, to let space exist, and to speak only when your words serve clarity, not your ego. This is where silence becomes your sanctuary. It calms your nervous system, deepens your perception, and expands your authority. Not through volume, but through presence. When you speak less, your words matter more. When you stop interrupting, people start listening. Not because you force them to, but because your energy commands it. This is Stoic influence, quiet, grounded, undeniable. So this week, let silence be your practice. Speak only to contribute, not to impress. Let others fill the air. Your stillness will say more. At the end of the day, the strongest presence in the room is often the one who doesn't need to prove anything at all. Chapter 10. Earn respect, don't chase it. Let's talk about a truth the Stoics lived by. Respect is not something you chase. It's something you quietly build. And that building begins long before the world even notices. It starts in how you speak to yourself when no one else is around. It's shaped in the decisions you make when there's no applause to catch you, no recognition to reward you. It's in the way you stay honest when deception would be easier. In the way you show up, not because someone's watching, but because you gave your word to yourself. Respect doesn't come from performance, it comes from principle. It doesn't come from charisma, it comes from character. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for praise. He wrote it to keep his soul in check, because he knew a man who is at peace with himself does not need public validation. Respect that is built through fear or noise fades, but respect built through integrity, that lingers. You don't earn it through volume, you earn it through alignment, through showing up day after day, doing the hard things, keeping your inner standards sacred. When others cut corners, you keep the line. When they demand recognition, you demand more from yourself. You stop chasing admiration and start becoming admirable. You don't have to explain who you are. Your life begins to do that for you. When your thoughts, words, and actions are in harmony, people feel it, even if they can't name it. Your presence becomes a compass in chaos. Your steadiness becomes a lighthouse for those who've lost theirs. And over time, that presence earns trust without asking. So raise your standards in silence. Be unshakable in your discipline. Let your habits do the talking. At the end of the day, the deepest kind of respect isn't given. It's drawn to those who live aligned, without needing to be seen, without needing to be heard, but simply by being true. Take a moment to define what respect truly means to you, not from others, but from within. Then ask yourself, what choices each day reflect that standard, even in silence, even when no one sees? Because when your inner compass becomes unwavering, your life begins to speak for itself. That's how you keep rising, quietly, steadily, undeniably. If this message resonates, consider subscribing to walk this path together. Drop a comment below with quiet strength if you're committed to this way of living. And remember, your presence is your proof. I'll see you in the next video where we go even deeper. Keep building.